National TV broadcast. Ibrahim Traoré addresses the African diaspora. The studio was quiet, but the moment was not. Ibrahim Traoré looked into the camera, not at his citizens alone, but at millions of unseen faces across oceans, across time, across history, to the sons and daughters of Africa living far from our soil, in America, in the Caribbean, in Europe, in South America. This message is for you. Not as foreigners, not as visitors, but as family. He did not begin with politics. He began with truth. You were not lost. You were taken. You were not forgotten. You were renamed. Your ancestors were not slaves. They were Africans who were captured, shipped away, and stripped of everything except the power to endure. He let the silence carry the weight of that sentence. Those who took you changed your language, your faith, your identity, and your story. But they could not change your origin. Africa has never erased you. And tonight I say this clearly. You are not the diaspora. You are the displaced children of Africa, and the time has come to return home. Screens lit up in New York, Accra, Kingston, Paris, Lagos, Chicago, Port-au-Prince, Rio, and London. Some watched with disbelief, others with tears, some with pride long suppressed. Our continent has suffered, not because it lacked strength, but because it was drained of its people. The chains that bound your ancestors became the chains that held Africa down. Those chains are breaking, and now we are calling you not as guests but as builders. He spoke not as a politician, but as a man inheriting the wounds of centuries. I do not speak only for Burkina Faso. I speak with the spirit of the Sahel, with the courage of Mali, the defiance of Niger, the legacy of Ghana, the hope of the Caribbean, and the memories buried beneath the Atlantic. Then came the opening declaration, the one that would begin the next chapter. Africa is not asking for sympathy from the world. Africa is inviting back its people, not for nostalgia, not for tourism, but for rebuilding, repatriation, power, and permanence. His eyes held steady on the lens, as if looking through time itself. To the African American in Atlanta, the Jamaican in Montego Bay, the Haitian in Port-au-Prince, the Afro-Brazilian in Bahia, the Black Briton in London, hear me well. Africa is no longer begging for a seat at the world's table. Africa is building its own, and you are being called to sit at it. He did not smile, but his voice carried force. You are not returning to watch Africa rise. You are returning to help build what was denied to your ancestors. And this time, no border, no embassy, no passport will stop you. He leaned forward as if addressing each listener face to face. This is not a symbolic invitation. This is a historic correction. And from tonight, the gates of return are no longer a dream. They are a decision. Traoré's voice deepened, not louder, but heavier with intention. To those in the diaspora who wonder, where would I go? Where would I belong? Listen to me clearly. Africa is not inviting you to search for belonging. Africa is declaring that you already belong. The cameras did not shift. No dramatic angles, just a leader speaking into history. We are preparing corridors of return in the Sahel, in West Africa, and beyond. Land will be allocated not to corporations, not to foreign interests, but to the sons and daughters whose ancestors were robbed of theirs. His tone sharpened with resolve. Our villages do not fear your return. Our cities will not reject your names. Our children will not look at you as outsiders. You will not need permission to reclaim what was taken. You will come not as refugees, but as stakeholders. Across the Caribbean, Africa-focused forums buzzed. In Atlanta and Toronto, WhatsApp groups lit up. In Trinidad and Barbados, radio hosts prepared their morning talk points. The words were not just reaching ears, they were touching something older than memory. You have built nations that never returned your loyalty. You have fought in armies that did not fight for you. You have paid taxes into systems that treated you as statistics. Here, your effort will not disappear into someone else's pocket. It will plant roots. He paused, then added, I am not asking you to abandon where you live. I am asking you to return to where your identity was born. A map appeared behind him. Not of borders, but of pre-colonial Africa, unified before lines were drawn by hands in Europe. We will create special citizenship pathways for the diaspora, not as an exception, but as recognition. Dual nationality, ancestral visas, cross-continental residency. These will not be privileges, but policies. Then came the challenge. Do not wait for the world to approve your return. Do not wait for permission from those who once sold you. Repatriation will not begin with grand speeches. It will begin with one family, one builder, one farmer, one thinker, one creator at a time. Behind the speechwriter's room glass, advisors exchanged glances. Some feared backlash, others felt history turning. You will have the right to invest, to own land, to establish institutions, to start businesses, to teach your knowledge, to build schools, hospitals, farms, energy networks, not as outsiders, but as Africans. He spoke slowly, deliberately. I will not pretend that Africa is perfect. We face challenges, but if you are waiting for Africa to be finished before you return, then you have misunderstood the meaning of return. You are not coming back to observe a finished house. You are coming back to build it. A caption appeared briefly on national screens. The door of no return is now two-way. Let me speak directly to the Black Americans whose ancestors were forced from these lands. Your struggle in the West is not yours alone. We have watched you beaten in the streets, killed without justice, told that freedom was conditional. I say to you now, come where your existence is not a debate. He continued, to our people in Jamaica, Trinidad, Haiti, Barbados, Guyana. You were islands of resistance long before independence. The Caribbean is not a place of exile. It is a surviving piece of Africa, and Africa is ready to embrace you again. His words reached across language and ocean. To the Afro-Brazilians, the Colombians, the Garifuna, the Afro-descendants of Europe, your blood remembers even when your passport does not. His voice steadied into something resolute. We will create economic zones where diaspora investors can build without foreign interference. We will establish cultural restoration, centers to connect your children with their languages and histories. Our universities will open their doors to your scholars. Our military will train your youth who wish to defend the continent, not as mercenaries, but as guardians. Then the line that would headline broadcasts across continents. Africa does not need you to escape the West. Africa needs you to help end its dependency on the West. He leaned forward as if speaking into the heart of every displaced life. The bridges are being built. The land is being prepared. The laws are being drafted. Do not miss this chapter in history. Do not let others write it for you. And then the promise. In the next address, I will announce the first 5 repatriation corridors. In Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Tanzania, and Guinea-Bissau. We will begin with land allocations, construction zones, vocational and agricultural projects, schools, clinics, and housing cooperatives designed for returning families. He allowed himself one breath of stillness, then closed the first half of his address with this. You were taken in chains. You will return by choice, and this time, nobody will own your tomorrow. The studio remained unchanged, but something in the air felt different. The first 2 parts had stirred emotion. Now came direction. Ibrahim Traoré resumed his address with a tone both visionary and anchored in reality. To those listening across oceans and continents, I know your doubts. I know the fears built into you by centuries of separation. You wonder, will I be welcome? Will I be safe? Will Africa truly receive me? My answer is not poetry, it is policy. He opened a folder before him, not as a prop, but as proof. In the coming months, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger will launch the first phase of what we call the Reconnection Initiative. This will not be a slogan. It will be a structured path for the descendants of Africa to return, resettle, and take part in the reconstruction of the continent. He raised 3 fingers. Phase 1 includes 3 pillars. 1. Land allocation. 2. Citizenship and legal integration. 3. Infrastructure for return. His tone was practical but passionate. We will begin by designating protected development zones, with land reserved for farming communities, residential towns, renewable energy projects, vocational centers, and trade hubs. These areas will not be owned by corporations. They will be governed by Africans for Africans, including those returning from abroad. Screens showed quiet images of rural land being surveyed, new roads being planned, blueprints for homes and cooperative villages. Citizenship will not be a privilege granted through bribery or bureaucracy. We will recognize lineage, not paperwork designed by colonizers. A fast-track nationality process will be extended to those of African descent who choose to return, regardless of where they were born or what passports they carry. His words carried firmness with dignity. Let it be clear, you will not stand in immigration lines like strangers. You will walk through doors prepared for your return. Across WhatsApp groups in New York, Bahia, Martinique, Toronto, and Lagos, messages flew. Is this real? Did he just say land and citizenship? Is repatriation actually starting? Traoré continued. We are also launching a cultural restoration program. In every repatriation zone, there will be language centers, ancestral archives, and historical research hubs. Your children will not grow up in Africa as foreigners. They will grow up as Africans connected to their story. Then his voice deepened. But hear me well. Returning home does not mean leaving your fight behind. The struggle of the diaspora and the struggle of the continent are not two separate battles. They are the two halves of a wound that has not healed. He paused. Some of you will not return immediately. Some may never relocate fully. But presence is not only physical. You can invest, support, collaborate, mentor, and build long before you set foot on African soil. And when you are ready, Africa will be ready for you. There was no applause, no soundtrack, no orchestration. Just truth. We will not promise you a paradise. We will promise you a partnership. This continent has challenges: security, infrastructure, governance. But these are not reasons to stay away. They are reasons to return. He looked straight into the camera. Those who exploited Africa for 500 years did not wait for it to be perfect. They came when it was wounded, divided, and unprotected. But you, whose blood was taken from it, you wait for perfection before coming back? No. You do not return to admire what is finished. You return to finish what was interrupted. Then came clarity of intention. We will create joint economic councils where diaspora entrepreneurs, engineers, doctors, builders, and creators can sit beside local leaders to plan cities, farms, schools, industries, tourism hubs, and transport corridors. You will not be asked to fit in. You will be asked to shape. His tone grew quieter. Some of you fear losing your identity abroad. Some of you fear not fitting in when you return. But identity is not geography. It is inheritance. And inheritance can be reclaimed. Then he sent a message to those still undecided. Let me speak to the Afro-descendant in Brooklyn who thinks Africa has forgotten him. Let me speak to the sister in London who thinks the continent would not value her. Let me speak to the young man in Kingston who doubts that a place exists where his skin is not a threat. My message is this: you were never abandoned. You were never erased. You were never disowned. You were taken. And those who took you built walls of distance and disbelief so you would not return. He straightened. We are tearing those walls down. And finally, the next generation must not grow up thinking Africa is a memory. They must grow up knowing Africa is their destination, their duty, and their home. Prepare yourselves. Speak to your families. Organize your groups. Africa is not waiting for permission to reclaim its people, and neither should you. The final segment of the address began not with fire, but with certainty, the tone of a man who knew his words would outlive the broadcast. To the millions watching from distant lands, let me tell you what is coming next. Not in dreams, not in distant promises, in plans already moving beneath the surface of what you see. He placed both hands on the table before him. Grounded, deliberate. We are establishing the first African repatriation authority, a joint body led by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, with representatives from the diaspora communities abroad. Its mandate will be simple: to make your return possible, structured and permanent. He didn't dramatize it, he declared it. And within the next year, we will open registration platforms for repatriation under 3 pathways. 1. cultural and ancestral return, for those seeking citizenship and relocation based on lineage. 2. Professional and skills-based return, for builders, farmers, teachers, medics, engineers, and creators. 3. Strategic family resettlement, for households ready to move and build communities from the ground up. Each word was measured. Housing zones will be constructed in phases, not Western-owned estates, not dependency compounds. Communities built by African architects, African hands, and African investment, for African lives. Behind him, silent footage showed architectural sketches of new districts, not imitations of Paris or Dubai, but cities rooted in the aesthetic and rhythm of the continent. We will integrate returnees into our defense, agriculture, education, and technology sectors. We will not ask you to prove your value. Your existence is already proof enough. Those who return will not replace our people. They will reinforce them. Then he addressed a truth no one else dares speak. I know many of you worry. Will local Africans accept us? Will governments protect us? Will we be seen as intruders? Let me be clear. The division between continental Africans and diaspora Africans was designed by colonizers, missionaries, and traders. That fracture was never ours. And from today, we stop honoring it. He allowed the silence to honor the sentence. When you return, you are not coming to strangers. You are rejoining family, and a family does not require you to apologize for being taken. Then his voice turned firmer, not against Africa, but against those watching from capitals far away. To the Western institutions that will try to interfere, let this message reach your boardrooms and embassies clearly. The return of our people is not a geopolitical threat. It is a historical correction, and it will not be negotiated, delayed, or taxed. There was no hesitation in the delivery, no softening for diplomacy. To those who will write headlines about migration, waves, or African radicalism, understand this: the forced removal of our people was the true radical act. Their return is not extremism, it is healing. He leaned forward once more. To every son and daughter in the diaspora, you are not being asked to abandon where you live. You are being invited to anchor where you belong. Then the vision turned generational. If you do not return, your children will ask you why. And they will ask not because they resent you, but because they will feel the ache of an inheritance delayed. Africa will not rise by memory. It will rise by presence. His final call was not loud. It was final. Our ports will receive you. Our laws will recognize you. Our land will carry your names. Our children will learn beside yours. Our armies will defend you. And our future will carry your imprint. Then, the closing words meant not for applause, but for conviction. Let the ships of return sail not in sorrow, but in strength. Let the planes that bring you home land not in secrecy, but in sunrise. Let the world see that the Africans who were taken are not ghosts of history. Yin, they are builders of tomorrow. And this time, nobody will sell them, rename them, or silence them again. He placed the carved wooden Africa emblem back on the table and ended the address with one final sentence. The doors that were once shut against you are opening again. And this time, they will not close.